Trace, I want to talk about affordability.
Changing the topic quickly.
I'm changing the topic quickly. It's interesting because there's been a lot of stories out there talking about affordable housing. And that is a conversation that needs to be had.
That's very different from affordability.
Correct.
Right.
Affordability, when we're talking about homes and specifically compared to historically. So Tracy, there was a story that came out, and a lot of people are seeing these headlines that, there's no affordable housing. And so all of a sudden they think, well, homes are not affordable. The reality is that homes are actually comparatively very affordable historically.
Totally. When you think about how much of somebody's typical income needs to go towards housing these days, it's very low compared to historical. Your percentage of how much you earn that goes towards housing has become much better.
Wait, I've got a stat for that. I've got a stat for that.
My Statomatic.
I've got a stat for that. So there's a couple different things you can look at. So there's this National Association of Realtor does a housing affordability index. They've been doing it for a long time. If you go back to 1990 is the chart I have. And what they look at is, the whole package. They're not looking at just prices of home. They're accounting for mortgage rates. They're accounting for income. So they're looking at median income versus what homes cost versus what the payments are, including insurances and taxes and everything. And the thing that's fascinating is 2020 was, back to 1990, it is the fifth most affordable year. The only years where it was more affordable were the post-recession. So, 2009, 10, 11, 12, right? Those were the good years, right? We should have all bought more homes back then, right?
Yeah.
Just like we all should have bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, but don't get me started.
Hopefully when we used to talk about it a lot, some of the people that we mentioned it to did buy it and still hold it because...
Well, when we were doing the show, remember, Tracy, we were doing this show back in... When did we start the show? Was it 2010? I don't remember.
It's been 7+ years.
Okay, so it was later.
13,
so it was
14,
12,
15.
13. And at the time we were saying it's a buyer's market. It's time to buy. It's time to buy.
It was a tough time to buy, though, because there wasn't lending programs, right? The lending was very difficult because a lot of the mortgage programs had gone away.
I'm going to push back on that. The easy lending had gone away.
Right.
But the people that could actually pay had no problem qualifying, right? It was just that the easy programs went away.
All of the unique programs that catered to different scenarios were not in place.
Yeah.
So
and the reality is those programs for the most part have not come back. A lot of those programs, helped create the housing bubble back in 2008. So anyway, we're getting way off track here. Affordability. So the reality is, right now, affordability is at a very historic low. And also, if you look at another piece of data, it's a percentage of income needed for a mortgage payment. It decreased drastically in 2020. So historic norm is about 21%, 22% of your income toward your housing, and that could be rent, that could be a mortgage. However, so 21% in as of right now we're at 14.9, 15%. So it's a huge decrease,
right?
In the affordability, and even though home prices have come up.
So what's helping that, Tego, is that interest rates are so low, you can afford more house.
Of course.
So because home prices are up, you can still afford them because of the lower interest rates.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I just want to talk about that, and just one other chart to talk about is the typical mortgage payment in 2020. They were saying it was $826. That's just adjusted principal and interest, and that's for a very average home, right? In 2006, it was $1,300, right? So it's a substantial difference.
Well, interest rates were about 7.5% then.
Sounds about right.
When I was a newly licensed realtor in 2002, we were typically in that 7.5% range. And then a few years later, when we got better, it was 7%. So, sometimes we'd be in that 7.5 range through 2006. That's my recollection.
So the takeaway is, don't make a decision based on a headline that says home prices are going up and they're up this much from last year or whatever, right? Or you see a headline that said there's no affordable housing on the market. Again, affordable housing is an issue. We look at the Albuquerque market right now. I mean, how many homes in Albuquerque right now, Tracy, you're in the MLS, are on the market under 200,000? It's got to be less than, it's got to be a few hundred, right? And so, that is a challenge. There are less lower price homes on the market without a doubt. And so